It all started on a bright Saturday afternoon, the kind of day when the streets are filled with chatter, camera phones, and a little bit of everything in between. In the middle of a crowded shopping square, a young woman named Ria stood quietly outside a boutique. She wasn't dressed in anything flashy, just a simple outfit, a little worn but clean, her hair pulled back loosely. She wasn't trying to be noticed. But somehow, she became the center of attention in the worst possible way. People began to stare when a group of well-dressed girls walked by, loud and confident, laughing about something. Then, one of them stopped, looked Ria up and down, and with a smirk said something loud enough for everyone to hear. A few more laughs followed. Others nearby started turning their heads, some joining in, some just watching. Ria didn't say a word. She didn't fight back. But you could see the sting in her eyes. It was the kind of public insult that makes time feel slower, and the world feel smaller. Most people just kept walking. A few lingered, unsure of what to do. And just when it seemed like the moment would end with her quietly disappearing into the crowd, something unexpected happened. A man, maybe in his early 30s, stepped forward. He hadn't been part of the scene until now. He had a camera hanging from his shoulder, the kind professionals use, not for selfies, but for telling stories. He looked at Ria, then at the crowd, and said, calmly but firmly, "Why are we okay with this?" Everyone turned toward him. There was a pause, one of those strange silences that feels louder than noise. And then, he did something no one saw coming. He walked up to Ria and asked her if she would let him take her picture. Confused, she hesitated, but something in the way he spoke, without pity, without pressure, made her nod. Just like that, the energy shifted. What happened after that moment turned Ria's day, and maybe her life, completely around. The man, whose name was Armin, wasn't just a photographer. He was someone who believed in finding beauty in places the world often ignores. And when he looked through his lens, he didn't just see a girl who had been insulted, he saw someone with a story worth telling. But what was it about Ria that made Armin stop and stand up for her in a way no one else did? Why did a single photo change everything for her? And what happened when that photo began spreading online, sparking conversations no one saw coming? This isn't just a story about an insult. It's about how one moment of kindness, one unexpected decision, can turn humiliation into hope. But not everything was easy from there. Because when the spotlight finally found Ria, it brought more than just attention. It brought choices, criticism, and the kind of truth she hadn't planned to face. And what she did next will surprise you. Ria had never been in front of a professional camera before. She wasn't the kind of person people usually noticed. She worked long hours at a small bookstore 2 blocks from the square and spent most of her time taking care of her younger brother. Her life was quiet, ordinary, and far from glamorous. So when Armin told her he wanted to do a full photo shoot with her, right there, in public, her first instinct was to say no. But something in her had already shifted. Maybe it was the fact that someone, for once, saw her as more than what she wore or how she looked. As Armin adjusted his lens and began taking pictures, people started watching again. But this time, it wasn't laughter. It was curiosity. Some of the same faces that had turned away earlier were now paying attention. Ria stood still, unsure of what she was doing, but Armin kept encouraging her, "Just be yourself." He didn't ask her to pose like a model or smile a certain way. He captured her exactly as she was. Later that night, Armin posted one of the photos on his social media with a short caption, "She stood alone, but not unnoticed." The post went viral within hours. People began asking who she was, why she looked so strong in that moment. But Ria wasn't ready for what came next. As thousands of comments poured in, so did messages from strangers, some kind, some cruel. And that group of girls from the square? They saw the post too. Ria found herself caught in something much bigger than she expected. She didn't ask for attention, but now the spotlight wouldn't leave. And while Armin had stepped in with good intentions, not even he could predict the wave that was coming. The more the photo spread online, the more divided the reaction became. Some people praised Ria's quiet strength, calling her the face of everyday courage. Others accused her of trying to gain sympathy, claiming the whole thing was staged. Rhea had never experienced this kind of exposure, and now her name was trending on platforms she didn't even use. Reporters began showing up at the bookstore. Customers whispered when she passed by. Even her manager pulled her aside and asked if all the attention was going to become a problem. But behind the screen, Rhea was struggling. She couldn't sleep. She stopped checking her phone because the messages wouldn't stop, some kind, others disturbingly cruel. The same internet that had lifted her up was now pulling her apart. People made up stories about her background, her family, her reasons for being outside that day. No one asked her directly. They just assumed. And through it all, Armin kept checking in, trying to help. But even he was under fire. Some accused him of using Rhea to boost his own following. Meanwhile, the girls from the square weren't silent either. One of them, Maya, posted a video defending what had happened, claiming Rhea had looked at them funny first. She brushed it off as a joke taken too seriously. But there was something behind Maya's voice, something almost nervous. What no one knew was that Maya had a secret of her own. A reason for her cruelty that had nothing to do with Rhea. Tensions grew offline, too. Rhea's younger brother started getting teased at school. People who had never noticed her before were now either overly friendly or quietly judging. And all the while, Rhea kept asking herself the same question, was all this really worth it? The pressure kept growing. Rhea tried to go back to her usual routine, early morning bus rides, long bookstore shifts, quiet evenings at home, but everything felt different now. Even the regular customers at the shop looked at her longer than they used to. Some smiled awkwardly, some whispered when she passed. She felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with being famous. It was like she no longer had a place to just be herself without being watched. Armin noticed the shift too. He kept reaching out, offering support, telling her they could stop it all if she wanted. But deep down, Rhea knew there was no stop button for this. The story had taken on a life of its own. New hashtags with her name started popping up. Some framed her as an inspiration, others accused her of chasing clout. She hadn't posted a single thing herself, yet everyone seemed to have an opinion. Then one evening, Armin invited her to a small local art gallery. He had added her photo to a series he titled Moments That Matter. It wasn't a flashy exhibit, just raw, honest portraits of ordinary people in extraordinary moments. Rhea's photo hung in the center of the wall. As guests walked in, they paused in front of it. Some looked moved. Others whispered the now familiar story about the girl in the square. Rhea stood in a quiet corner, watching silently. That's when Maya walked in. No cameras. No entourage. Just Maya, alone, wearing a simple jacket and holding something in her hand. Rhea saw her before Armin did. The room felt colder, tighter. Maya scanned the room until her eyes met Rhea's. For a second, neither of them moved. Then, slowly, Maya began walking toward her. Rhea's heart pounded. She didn't know if Maya was here to apologize, or to make things worse. Armin started to move toward them, but Rhea held up her hand, signaling him to stay back. She needed to handle this herself. Maya stopped just a few feet away. She looked nervous, nothing like the confident, smirking girl from that afternoon. She held out the small item in her hand. It was a folded piece of paper. Rhea didn't take it at first. She just stared at her, trying to read her face. I didn't come here to fight, Maya said quietly. Just read it later. That's all. She placed the paper gently on a nearby table and walked away. No big scene, no words for the crowd. Just that brief, strange moment between the two girls at the center of a storm they never meant to create. Rhea picked up the paper but didn't open it right away. Her mind was racing. Was this a trap? An apology? A confession? Meanwhile, across the room, someone was taking photos again, not Armin this time, but someone from a blog that had been following the story. The flash went off. Rhea flinched. All eyes turned. And in that instant, she realized something else. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of what she would have to face. As the gallery lights dimmed and guests slowly began to trickle out, Rhea stayed behind, the folded note still clutched in her hand. Armin stood nearby, watching her carefully, but giving her space. He knew she needed a moment. She finally opened the paper, her fingers trembling slightly. The handwriting was rushed, uneven, like someone had scribbled it quickly but with purpose. It read, "I said what I said because you looked like someone I used to know. Someone who ruined everything for me. But that wasn't fair. I see that now. I didn't know you. I just reacted. And I'm sorry. I'll explain more soon. I have to. Asterisk." It wasn't the apology Rhea had expected, but it wasn't nothing either. There was something unsettling about it, something unfinished. It didn't just hint at regret, it hinted at a deeper story. A connection that Rhea didn't understand yet. Who did Maya think she was? And what had happened that made her act the way she did in the square? Before she could ask, the gallery's curator approached Armin, whispering something urgently. Armin nodded, his face suddenly tense. He pulled Rhea aside. "There's a journalist outside," he said. "She's not just covering the exhibit. She's been digging into your past." Rhea froze. "What past?" "She says she found something. About your family. Your mom." Rhea's breath caught. Her mother had left years ago, when she was just a teenager. It was something she rarely spoke about, even with Armin. She had done everything to protect her younger brother from those memories. To build a quiet life away from all of that. And now someone was trying to pull it into the light. They stepped outside into the cool night air. A woman with a press badge and a phone recorder in hand stood by the steps. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said quickly. "But you need to know, someone else has come forward. They say they recognize your face from an old photo. A story connected to your mother, and something that happened years ago. It's about to go public." Rhea didn't respond. Her mind spun. Was this about the past she had tried to leave behind? Or was someone using the current spotlight to twist things? The woman continued, "I'm giving you a chance to respond before this goes live. Because once it does, everything changes." Rhea felt the ground shift beneath her. She wasn't just the girl who had been insulted anymore. She was now a name tied to something bigger, something possibly scandalous. And it didn't matter whether it was true or not, once a story hits the internet, truth often gets lost in the noise. She looked over at Armin. He didn't say a word, but the worry in his eyes said everything. This wasn't just about a photo anymore. It was about identity, secrets, and the pieces of her life she thought she had buried. Now, the world wasn't just watching her. It was coming for her. Rhea didn't sleep that night. The journalist's words echoed in her mind on a loop. She kept thinking about her mother, the questions she'd buried, the pieces of her past she had learned to live without. By morning, the article was live. The headline read, "From the square to the spotlight, the girl behind the viral photo has a history she doesn't want you to know." Rhea opened the article with shaking hands, dreading every line. But as she read, something inside her shifted. The story revealed that Rhea's mother had been involved in a financial scandal over a decade ago, nothing violent, but enough to make headlines back then. A small community group had been scammed, and though her mother had disappeared before facing legal action, the incident left a mark on everyone connected to it. The article didn't accuse Rhea of anything, but it didn't have to. The connection was enough. People online were already twisting the narrative, like mother, like daughter. Rhea stood in her kitchen, staring at her phone. Her brother came in, sleepy-eyed and worried. "Is it true?" he asked softly. Rhea nodded. "It's part of the truth. But it's not who I am." And just like that, something in her settled. She was tired of hiding. Tired of letting others tell her story. She grabbed her phone and opened her camera, recording herself for the first time since all of this began. In a single take, she told her story. Not just about the day in the square, but about her past, her mother, the pain of being judged by something she didn't do. She talked about the photo, Armin, Maya's note, and the difference between being seen and being understood. "I didn't ask to be in the spotlight," she said, voice calm but firm. "But since I'm here, let me say this, I'm not running. And I'm not ashamed." She posted the video without overthinking it. Within hours, it exploded. Unlike before, the reaction this time was different. More human. More people related to her than judged her. Comments poured in, stories from others who had carried their family's mistakes, who had been misjudged, who were tired of pretending they were perfect. And then the real twist came. A message landed in Ria's inbox. It was from someone she hadn't heard from in years. It was her mother. The message was short, *, I saw the video. You're stronger than I ever was. I want to talk, if you're ready. Ria stared at the screen. After all this time, the woman she had stopped trying to understand was suddenly reaching out. Not to explain the past, but maybe, just maybe, to face it. She didn't respond right away. She just sat there, phone in hand, heart racing again, not from fear this time, but from the weight of a choice she hadn't expected to make. The world had made her the star of someone else's story. Now, finally, it was her turn to write the next chapter. Ria didn't respond to her mother's message right away. She let it sit in her inbox for a full day, maybe two. In truth, she wasn't sure what she felt: anger, confusion, curiosity. But mostly, she felt different. Stronger. Like she wasn't that quiet girl outside the boutique anymore. Life had pushed her into a spotlight she never wanted, but somehow, through all the noise, she'd found her voice. Eventually, she messaged her mother back. Nothing long. Just, *, I'm open to a conversation. No promises, just honesty. *, that was all she could give for now. It was enough. Meanwhile, things began to settle online. Her video had changed the tone of the conversation. People stopped talking about her and started talking to her. She was invited to speak on a podcast about online judgment and cancel culture. Armin's exhibit gained more attention, and his decision to spotlight people like Ria earned him new respect. They stayed in touch, still meeting at the bookstore sometimes, where the shelves were quiet and nobody asked questions. Maya didn't disappear either. A few days after the gallery, she sent Ria a longer message. She admitted she had lashed out that day because Ria reminded her of someone who had bullied her years ago, someone Maya had never dealt with emotionally. It didn't excuse what she did, but it gave Ria the missing piece of the puzzle. They met for coffee once. Not to become friends, but to clear the air. Sometimes, that's all two people need. Ria's brother stopped getting teased. In fact, a few classmates started asking if she'd come speak at their school. She laughed it off at first, but the idea grew on her. Maybe telling her story could actually help someone else who was being judged for something they didn't do, or for where they came from. In the end, the photo that started it all still hung in Armin's gallery. But now, it wasn't just a symbol of that one afternoon. It was a reminder of how quickly people can turn someone's image into a headline, and how powerful it can be when that person takes their story back. Ria never became a celebrity. She didn't want to. She just wanted peace. And she got it, not by hiding from her past, but by facing it, speaking up, and refusing to let others define her worth. She walked through the same square one morning, months later, and no one stared. No one pointed. It was just a normal day. And somehow, that felt like the biggest victory of all. Sometimes the spotlight burns. But sometimes, just sometimes, it lights the way. And for Ria, that was more than enough.